Hey everyone, it's Laurie from Cook Scrap Craft. Today I am back with a scrapbook process video, but I'm not doing a scrapbook layout as I usually do. I have been promising you this video for a while now, and so here it is. This is my take on killing my October Best of Both Worlds kit and throwing in a few other bits and pieces that are from a more recent kit or scrapbook purchase, and using those leftover pieces to make cards. So what I've got here is some white cardstock that I'm using as my base, and I've cut it to 5 by 7, and then I'm using my scoring board, my Martha Stewart Crafts scoring board, to get a nice straight fold line at the 3.5 mark, so that the size of these cards is going to be 5 by 3.5. So it's a nice like note card size, and they fit in most like standard envelopes. I don't know about you, sometimes I have leftover envelopes from note cards because like if you make a mistake in a note card and then you don't want to fix it, you just throw it out, then you have a leftover envelope. So yeah, or like I think they might just be easy to buy blank envelopes, or you could even do like a regular like letter envelope. I've done that before with some of my cards. Like I do like the long business size envelopes, and you know, nobody says anything because they just like the card that's inside. So I don't normally do a lot of card making, but when I do, it's always because I'm using up leftover scraps. And I know a lot of people who are very talented card makers. They've got stamps, they've got amazing embellishments, they like color in their stamps, they're like artists. It's so beautiful to watch them do it and see how their cards turn out. I am not that kind of card maker. Like I said, if I'm making cards, it's because I'm trying to use up little bits and pieces, because I have small pieces of paper that are not really going to be a great fit on a 12 by 12 scrapbook layout, but on a 5 by 3.5 card, or even like a 4 by 6 card, or a bigger 5 by 7 card, yeah, these little smaller pieces are going to work pretty well. So what I've got, you can see to the left, are all the leftover pieces of patterned paper that I purchased for my October kit. And then one of I think it was actually a patterned paper from, I want to say, Jen Hadfield. It had a whole bunch of 2x2 squares, and each square had a little sentiment in it, like thanks, thinking of you, get well soon. And I really like those. I used some of them on the scrapbook layouts, some of them that were more like general, talking about like, oh, joy, you bring me happiness, stuff like that. But then the things that said like thanks, I don't really do like thank you scrapbook layouts, but I need thank you cards, especially with the holidays coming up. We're going to have to thank people who give us presents and things like that. So it's always nice to have some homemade thank you cards at the ready. And so yeah, I decided to use those 2x2 squares as my sentiments for all of these cards. If you don't have that same pattern paper, you could easily do something similar by cutting, white cardstock or cream colored cardstock, and then stamping a sentiment onto that 2x2 square that you've cut, and then using pattern paper to go behind it, as I'm doing here. So it's really a mix of manufacturers that I have going on here. And for this one, I was inspired by the square shape. And so I have the 2x2 square here that I'm actually going to pop up on some foam tape that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then behind it, I have gradually bigger sizes of squares in different pattern papers. And I'm doing it sort of at a diagonal so that it looks like they're kind of, creating a spiral out from the center. And then I also added in some very pretty lacy ribbon that I gotten from Paper Issues, I think, Fancy Pants, I believe it was. I haven't used a whole lot of it yet, but I did purchase it, I think, for October. And I was like, oh, like, you're going to get to see me use it. And I think I've used it on like one scrapbook layout, but it was perfect for these cards. So I just did a nice strip of that pink ribbon going at the bottom of the card. I was going to do it at the top, and then I started adhering everything in the wrong way. And then to finish that off, I added some sequins. I had a sequins mix from an old Cocoa Vanilla Studio collection, and some of the colors on it were pretty similar to the colors on the card. Some greens. I really like gold, especially with like the fall color of the fall colors of the pattern papers, and that was a fall kit, so it was pretty perfect. I didn't know where my little scoring board pen was, so I had to find it, but then here I have scored another 3.5 by 5 card, and this one I'm going to do the other way. So I am making 3 horizontal cards. And then this one's going to be vertical. And again, going through all those 2x2 squares to find a nice sentiment that I like. And I decided, I was thinking maybe I was going to do like 2 on there, but then I decided not to. And here you can see like the process of just piecing it together is like me just putting stuff down and being like, oh yeah, that kind of works. And then I have to use my ruler to measure to make sure that I get things, I don't cut things too short. I don't want them to be too long. I want them to be just the right size to fit in there. And then pretty much with everything here, I am inking all the edges with some black ink. And yes, I have an ink dauber that I could be using. However, for that big ink pad, sometimes I just like to hold it up and just use it on its own instead of messing with the ink daubers. And then I don't have to clean anything, which is kind of nice. So here I have that nice background. It's sort of like pinks, like a bluey gray and some browns, really cool pattern. And then I'm going to put on top of it something that actually came from the November Best of Both Worlds kit. There was I think it was a 6x6 paper pad from Honeybee Stamps. So I had some leftover paper from that. And so this is like a fally, I don't know, orangey brown with a little bit of a pattern on it. It doesn't show up very well on the camera. I think they're just stripes, but they look kind of warped on the camera. So I'm going to use just a little bit of that to go on top of that pattern paper there. And I'm deciding that I want that to go off the card page. And then I'm going to bring over that little word that says thanks. And of course you can't do it without more of that beautiful pink ribbon. And for the pink ribbon adhesive, I'm actually using some red tape, but instead of just like sticking a whole piece of red tape going all the way along the back of the ribbon, I'm just doing like small little bits at the edges because it does, the ribbon is like lacy. So the adhesive does stick through that lace, and I didn't want someone to like open the card and get their finger stuck in the adhesive glue. So I'm just doing a little bit at the corners, just enough to keep everything down, and then the sentiment is going to go on top of that, and that's also kind of going to help keep the ribbon down as well. But I'm going to pop it up with some more foam tape just to give the card a little bit of extra dimension, and then I will also use, I think, more of those Cocoa Vanilla Studio sequins. I would love to know in the comments what you guys do when you're card making, if you are a card maker or if you prefer just straight scrapbooking. And if you do card making, what your favorite techniques are. Do you make your own mixed media backgrounds? Do you do shaker pockets? I love the look of shaker pockets, but I never really have the supplies to do one. I don't have like a die cut machine to do cool, like die cut cool shapes, and I know there are like kits that you can buy. I just never have any of them, but I really do like the look of a shaker pocket. So I've already gotten the sequins glued down with some Zotz Bling, and then this one I thought would be fun to use my Nuvo Mica Mist. It's like a gold color, and just do a few little splatters on there. And the back of each card is what I showed you right there. The back of each card, I'm doing a stamp that lets people know that these cards are handmade, and I got that stamp as a freebie from scrapbook.com. I've seen other people with similar types of stamps, but there are like personalized to them, so they would have, you know, their YouTube channel or their social media name on it, and those are really cool too. I don't happen to have one of those, so I just use the one that I got from scrapbook.com, and I think it works out pretty well. And sometimes inside the cards, I will also stamp a sentiment, especially like a birthday card. Sometimes I don't always make it say happy birthday on the outside, so I will use a happy birthday stamp and put it on the inside. So that's just something else that you can do. Especially if you're like, what do I write on the inside of a card? Because when you go buy a pre-made greeting card, they always have stuff written on the inside. And so sometimes it's hard to like figure out how to mimic that, but you don't have to really overthink it. You don't have to come up with your own birthday poem unless you really want to. And especially with like a thank you card, you're just going to be writing your own thank you note inside of it. So you don't really have to worry too much about having a sentiment on the inside of the card or anything like that. But you could, dress up the inside of the card if you wanted to. So for this one, that 2x2 square, the word was in a circle. And I think that says thinking of you. I think so. So I was inspired by that circle to do kind of like what I did with the squares, just do circles in gradually larger sizes. So to do this, I broke out my Spellbinders Grand Caliber manual die cut machine, and I have a series of circle die cuts that I use quite often. Great way to cut your photos into circles or make your own embellishments, or like here, this, I'm going to be matting that little sentiment with these other two sizes of pattern paper circles. And this machine I've had for many, many years. It's very easy to use. There are similar ones like it on the market, and you have to like buy dies to use in it. But I've had dies that are not spellbinders that work just fine going through that machine. And once you know how to use it, it is very easy to do. It's only been recently though that I've realized like, hey, I could be using washi tape to stick the die to the paper or the photo so that it doesn't move inside the machine, inside that like sandwich as I'm trying to put it into the machine. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that I should be doing that. So if you have washi tape, definitely use it to hold down your dies. If you don't have washi tape, go get some because it's really good to have on hand. Washi tape is fun to use on cards and scrapbook layouts as a nice embellishment, but it's also a very useful tool just to have around. So that's why my goal is to not buy expensive washi tape, but just to find like some cheapo washi tape and just have it on hand to use to kind of like keep my dies together whenever I'm using the Spellbinders machine. And once again, I am going over the edges of those circles in the black ink. And then I'm going to, you kind of saw, I'm going to do like a little, what's the word I'm trying to think of? The circles are not going to be all together, like the smallest to biggest. I'm kind of doing like an offset design there. So we've got the bigger one with the pretty florals, and then the middle one is got the pretty green leaves and branches, and then the smaller circle, I'm going to put on some foam tape just to pop it up again, just give a little bit more dimension to the card. I think it really adds a little something, something, especially when people see it in the envelope and they're like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's like popping off the page, right? And then again, adding some of those sequins in. Now this one, if I could go back and redo it, I would. This is a case of me like sticking sequins down too soon. As I put them all down, I'm like, okay, I really like the way that looks. And then I got the idea to do some more sequins like going around the outside of the large circle. And I'm like, I should mimic that on the other side with the smaller circle. But I'd already glued down the sequins. And when you're using the glue dots, as you're seeing here, they don't come up without ripping off the paper. So be very careful about where you're putting your sequins. Like make sure you're married to that design because otherwise you're gonna have a hard time. So I did end up I tried to peel off one of them because I ended up not liking the placement, but I wasn't going to be able to fix the torn paper that happened. So I just had to stick it back down and go with it. But here I'm adding in some it's Scrapbook.com's version of Nuvo Drops. They're called Pops of Color. So this is champagne, and it's a glittery gold color. So I'm just doing 3 little drops of those around the around the outside of the big circle. And then I'm like, I should do it around like this circle here, but oh, that sequence is in the way. And then I tear it up, and you can see the hole there. So mistakes happen in scrapbooking and card making. You just make the best of it. And I think what it really comes down to is that the person who is receiving your card is just grateful that you've thought of them, and not only thought of them enough to send them a card, but to think of them enough to like hand make a card. I think that really says something, especially in today's age of like internet and oh, I'll just send an email or I'll just DM that person. Any type of card, homemade or store-bought, is going to be a really welcome addition to someone's day. So this is the last card, and this paper here is from a Recollections paper pad that I got from Michaels. So I'm going to use that as the background for this layout, and I really like the way that the colors of all of these different papers go so well together, even though they're not part of the same collection. So if you are not into paper mixing or collection mixing, I highly recommend you give it a try because it's a lot of fun, and I think you get more out of your stash that way. You get the most out of your scrapbook and card making supplies when you mix and match collections. So I did a little bit of torn paper there because the rainbow paper that I'm going to be bringing in also has a torn edge. And I really liked the way that looked, and I thought, wouldn't that be cool to do on a card? Like, why not, right? So I'm going to stick that down. I got the other page stuck down, and I did it in two steps. I did one side, stuck that down, and then tore the other side, and then stuck it down. And of course, the double-sided adhesive squares that I'm using, I think they're pretty repositionable. I'm trying to see if, yeah, it says they're initially repositionable. So if you, like me, as you're going to see, stick things down a lot and then say, oops, I don't like the way that looks, or I want something to go underneath it, you can still easily peel up the double-sided adhesive squares, and that's no problem. So see here, I'm like, I don't know if I really like the torn paper on the white background because you can't really see it, and the whole point of having the torn paper is to see the torn edge, but it's white, so white on white doesn't really show up that much. So here I'm just trying to find a good color that could go underneath that second pattern paper that's there. So ultimately I end up going with, you can see I'm trying a lot of different colors and pattern papers to see which one I like the best, and which one is going to be the right size to fit. And I'm going to go with that brown simply because the rainbows have more of like a brownie feel than a green feel. I really like that dark green pattern paper, but it's just not, it just didn't seem to really fit with the other papers that I was using. And that brown strip, actually the other side, had little pumpkins on it. So it's like a Halloween pattern paper on one side and then more a general fall paper on the other side, which I really, really love. I love using stuff that is normally like for a specific holiday or a specific season and using it in a non-seasonal or non-holiday way. So here I'm going to back the 2x2 square with some other pattern paper that again came from a Michaels Recollections paper pad. And I've got a branding strip that has florals on it, which are really pretty. It's like a navy blue background with like yellow and pink florals on it. So I'm going to incorporate that into this card as well. And I know this process is probably a little bit longer than some of my other process videos. So I thank you for sticking with me. We're almost to the end, and you'll see some close-ups of some of these cards and all the cards together. And of course, I've got to ink the edges of the branding strip, even though it's kind of hard because it's so small and flimsy. But I really like the way that it makes it kind of pop and stand out against some of those other pattern papers that are there. If you are a subscriber to the channel, welcome back. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and it's so great to have you. Please consider clicking the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other process videos that I'm going to be posting. I have a weekly Tuesday process video, and I'm also still doing a Scrapbook and Cards Today inspiration series that's every other Thursday. So if you subscribe and click the bell to get notifications, you won't miss out on any of those. And of course, all the other videos that I post throughout the month, like my haul videos, my layout shares. I know I think I promised everybody I was going to do like a series of the sketch of the month for December maybe, but I haven't started working on that at all. So I don't know, maybe I'll do another like one sketch for layouts video like I did last month, because I think that worked really well. But thank you again for watching all the way to the end. Here are the close-ups. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the techniques or products that I used. Thank you so much for watching, and have a scrappy day.
Bye.